Gridiron Warrior podcast is built for strength and football coaches who want to run the best possible programs for their athletes and their communities. Each episode delivers simple, practical coaching advice that transfers straight from the weight room to the field. No theory, no fluff, no fancy words, just real world strategies from coaches that are living it. So you can build stronger, faster, more durable athletes at any level.
We've got an awesome one for you today. James Burk from Hardin-Simmons University. He's been coaching longer than most people have been alive. So he's got some great insight about training offense and defensive linemen, getting those big bodies in the trenches going, how to take care of them. And then you're not going to want to miss the Catalina wine mixer at the end. So stay tuned for that.
All right, we're back for another episode of the Gridiron Warrior podcast. I have Coach James Burk on for this episode. Coach, give us your introduction. Tell us your story. Take it away.
I very appreciate you having me, Coach. James Burk, currently head strength and conditioning at Hardin-Simmons University. We're D3 in God's country, Abilene, Texas. It's a great university. I played there in the 1900s. I met my wife there. I've got a son who's a junior interior offensive lineman there as well. So just been there 3 years. Before that, this is my 28th year of coaching. I was a head football coach for 13 years. Been an athletic director, maybe the worst job in America, assistant AD, head powerlifting. I coached 7th grade girls basketball and made a girl cry for eating Doritos on the bench. And at some point in my career, I've done probably not all, but I was a laundry coordinator. My first 6A public school job, coaches staff meeting, 15 coaches. And I worked here to LC. I'm like, hell yeah, I'm already a coordinator. And then I realized it was a laundry coordinator. And got really good. I think I was voted all district honorable mention LC in 2001 when I was at San Antonio East Central. Started off strength and conditioning. That was the goal, GA to 2CU. I think back then they called it a volunteer intern. Worked for a company called the Athletes Course before you could train your own kids in the summer in Texas. It was the Athletes Course and the Adams Course, and man, it was a sweet job. It was awesome. I'm getting off on a story, but it was I was 22 or 23, and I would go to these schools and sell the Athletes Course, sell summer strength and conditioning. So I'm seeing off seasons, good, bad, the ugly, and seeing how some teams overcome a bad strength and conditioning programs because they buy into it and they're tough. Making connections and networking with these head coaches, and then I would present in front of the kids and sell it. And just got used to talking, I guess, in front of athletes. And then in the off season, nobody wanted to be bothered in the fall. That was my off season, so I'd go watch football games. They'd send me to universities to just study strength and conditioning, and it was awesome. So I was on that path, and maybe the guy in charge made some poor business decisions, and found myself looking for something else, and it got into high school, and then did some time at Sam Houston State with Rusty Witt and learned a ton. And then got back into high school, wanted to get back to the Metroplex. It's where I'm from, where my wife is from. Wanted to get back working with high school kids, and just with the high school path. And love football, so I coached football, primarily O-line, D-line, coordinated offenses. So I did that, but I was always involved in strength and conditioning. It was a bunch of small private schools in the Dallas area. Never had the most talented kids, so I always found what I thought was an edge was strength and conditioning. So I was with these guys year round. I was with them O-line, D-line coach in the fall, powerlifting will be headed and not straight to off season. I was the shot viscous coach. That's what I'm recruiting linemen. And then in the summer strength and conditioning. So I was just around linemen. My two sons played offensive line. I played O&D line. So in the name of the school is where I've been, really doesn't matter, but that's kind of where I'm at. And then full circle. So now I'm probably, besides Mike Pappas at East Texas Baptist, who does a phenomenal job, I might be the oldest D3 head strength coach in America. It's like a game of shoots and ladders, I'm like, man, they're probably not enough 50-year-olds out there doing 11 teams in a day. But Jesse Burleson's the head football coach in Hardin-Simmons University, one of the best in America, regardless of division. We had a locker next to each other for 2 years. He was a much, much better player than I ever thought about being. And so he called and his strength got left. And I was at a great school. Wasn't really looking to move, but in this business, sometimes you don't have a good nest egg for college tuition. And I knew I wasn't going to pay much, but when he said, hey, it's tuition's free, because my son had already committed there. I said, hey, when do I start? So I finished summer training at Cistercian Preparatory on Friday, balled like a baby. And then Monday, I'm in Abilene. Hey, what's your name? So that's kind of what brought me here. And man, I work with all the sports. So I think we have about 600 athletes and a student body of about 1,600. So most of the kids are athletes. I work with them all. We have about 220 football players. So it's you have to get really good at working with large groups and working at small private schools. I was at a Catholic school for 13 years. They just give you more titles, more hats, and no more pay. So I was used to they hired the right guy to have no staff. I showed up at the best staff meeting in the world. I had an assistant. I was going to do an Olympic and have a GA. And within 48 hours, they called me and told me they were leaving. Not because it was such a shitty meeting. I thought it was a pretty good meeting. But they'd already had their dogs out hunting. They thought I was going to fire them. I wasn't going to fire you. I need somebody. So that whole year, I was solo, just going lone wolf. And it was, I used to have hair, I think, before that. But it's a great place. And that's kind of along the elevator ride of my background.
You've been doing this for a long time. I ask every guest that comes on. I mean, it doesn't have to just be football, but it could be college athletics as a whole. But what do you love about football? Because whether you're a football coach, whether you're a strength coach, we know that we're not in this for the money and for the fame. There's only one Nick Saban. You know what I mean? And the rest of us are all just trying to get the mortgage paid, you know? So you've been doing this for a long time. Well, what do you love about it?
And it might be a disturbing answer, but it's an honest answer. I love the locker room, and I love team camaraderie, and I love the joint suffering that brought you closer together. But to be honest, like what you'll never get back, miss the violence. I'm just being honest. Like I like, it was in a good sportsmanship way, but I like hearing the wind knocked out of someone. I like seeing someone's will melt between your fingers and you freaking kicked his ass for 4 quarters. I like seeing them submit. I like seeing them tap out. I like the training aspect and convincing guys, hey, you're going to look in his eyes in the 4th quarter and he hasn't been to a place you're willing to go and you've been and you're comfortable. It gets my chili hot and it gets me jazzed up, and it's kind of the last bastion of freaking males and testosterone. And you can say they've kind of, penalized things and that's all. But if you look around, besides UFC, boxing, rugby, things like that, you walk out in the stadium, doesn't matter how many people, and you have that kind of feeling of you're in the Coliseum, you're a Spartan, and it's your body is your weapon and your armor. And it's good to challenge someone. It's good to challenge yourself and say, did my preparation prepare me? Am I mentally resilient enough to go at it for 4 quarters and about 72 times? We're going to lock horns, and at the end of it, I'll shake your hand and I'll respect you, but I'm going to whoop your ass for 4 quarters, and that's the goal. That's what I miss, and that's what,
and I'm with you. I'm the same way in terms of there are less and less chances for young men these days to physically compete and battle the way that we used to, and this is one of those things where you're allowed and you're able, and it's not against the rules to do it. So, I'm going to try and protect this sport and do it in the right way, and I think that's a big thing is like you said, it doesn't have to be dirty. It doesn't have to be illegal, but it's a safe haven for physical confrontation. So let's embrace it for as long as we can.
And you don't have to hate your opponent, but that opponent makes you better. That opponent made you watch film. That opponent, like, you need a rival. You need someone, Rocky needed Apollo Creed, whatever. He needed Drago. If you don't have that, you're not going to be as sharp as you can be.
let's get into the whole reason I brought you here, and that's a perfect segue too. Talking about violence, it's talking about big bodies, right? We're
Yeah.
talking O line, we're talking D line. Now I'm a college D line, college D3 offensive lineman myself, Springfield College, triple option. Okay,
Heck
so
yeah.
I've been there, I loved it, and there's maybe that's I tell people maybe that's why I'm a strength coach today is because I had to grind for 4 years on college, and when I got into the real world, the grind was very similar. Different in its own way, but very similar in a lot of ways as well. So first things first is to me, describe what makes great offensive and defensive line play in terms of big bodies, because I'm starting to see this myself and maybe in a way that I wish it wasn't turning. We're seeing less of these big old school mauler and brawlers, and you're seeing smarter kids these days that watch more film than ever. Their footwork's better, their hands are better. I love that stuff, but there's still an attitude, and there's less of these kids that have this attitude. So take it away in
No,
terms of when you're thinking big bodies, you're training big bodies. What are you trying to impress on these kids?
and that's a good, on the football side, maybe the evolution of the game, um, has taken away some of the mentality, some of the physicality, the zone run, versus an ISO. You don't see a lot of bare fronts anymore. I mean, that would be a piece of it. You're not literally putting your hand in the dirt, one, because it's turf, and two, because you're in a 2 point. Even defensive line stances, to me, what I used to make fun of and call bullfrog stances, where their shoulders are where that seems to be the norm now. I guess we quit teaching that at some point.
I
Um,
tell our kids I was a 4-point snapper in college, and they don't believe me, and
yeah, I saw someone in the NFL do that the other day. It blew me
tush
away.
push. It had to have been the Eagles, man. That tush
Yeah,
push now. They're all
uh,
4-point.
but that's a part of it. We used to have debates. Can you be a physical team and be a zone team? And you get O line coaches fighting in a room over that. But I think that has changed part of it. It used to be there's some things that I've seen as like, big is just big. Big isn't good. Like the kid's big, put him on the line. Well, that don't mean anything. There's a lot of big kids that suck. Um, and strong is just strong. Strong is not powerful. Here in Texas, powerlifting is so big. And it was a way to cheat. They developed high school powerlifting so they could come in the morning and get an extra workout. Whether they competed in a meet or not, they'd host a try meet and check a box. And they would all competed. And then it's morphed into bench daddies. And um, so we get kids that are strong, but that doesn't mean they're powerful. And there's times I wish we didn't have a record board in our weight room. That was my flaw. I don't care how much you move. I care how well you move. And I was always so busy, I want to be on the record board, and I could lift some weights. But I look back and man, I couldn't move. Uh, there was a time element, which is part of the power, what attracts me to power. I think kind of a missing element. We do lineman camps at Hardin-Simmons, and we have a state lineman challenge. It's really a phenomenal deal. Coach Burk runs it. We had like 700 linemen competing at the state challenge in Abilene. And at one of the camps, I'm doing a vertical jump. I'm that guy on a jump meet. And then I had a medicine ball kneeling chest thing, upper body power, lower body power. And I was blown away by how piss poor we were at it. I hear some O-line coach, hey, thank God we don't have to do a vertical on 4th and 1 to get a first. I'm like, no, but you got to put force in the ground, don't you? You got to kind of apply some force and have a time element, you jack wagon. But kid just jumped 11 inches, don't pacify that he has no lower body power. Squat 500 and assume takes him 5.7 seconds to do it. And so that was my first kind of, because I had been in this silo of just knowing what I know and training who I train. And I thought everybody had medicine balls. I thought every lineman was doing plyos. And I had 2 guinea pigs, my 2 sons, Cole and Cade. I trained and enjoyed that aspect. It was a lot of fun. I wasn't like Marinovich. I wasn't, at least I don't think I was. But I'd be like, hey, let's try this. And if it didn't break them, I'm like, cool, I'll try that with the team next week. So then when I get to Hardin-Simmons and I see all these high schools, and I was kind of blown away that they didn't move well. They love lifting weights. Everybody, oh, strength. I'm not, you got to have strength to have power. It's force component. Yeah, I get it. But we overemphasize it, I think, because it gives us more immediate feedback than a medicine ball throw. Because you have a record board for it, you have T-shirts for it, and you emphasize it. What you focus on expands. So if all you focus on is how you get bigger and get stronger, and I'd have these postseason meetings, and I'll be like, hey, when you couldn't make a play, what was it? What was the missing ingredient? And it was never strength. No one was ever like, Coach, if I could have benched 20 pounds more, I could be better at blocking second level defenders. It was always movement. I think any decent lineman can block in a phone booth, and once you get hands on them, maybe it's the size. Maybe we had some 100. I had a guard that weighed 165, maybe at one of my schools, and we were gap skating primarily because of that. But heck, he was one of our better blockers because he could move so well. And then the basketball players could always move really well. So that's one of the things I guess I've seen or maybe surprised by and shouldn't have been probably was how poorly some of them move and overemphasis on absolute strength or maximal strength, whichever one you want to call it.
In terms of misconceptions out there, high school kids, they see the next level, they see the NFL, and they just think bigger and stronger but I think you hit the nail on the head. If you can't move, at some point, that's the rate limiting factor. If you can't get to the second level, if you can't move laterally, at some point you're going to get exposed by those things. If you can't jump, right, you're not going to have the power that you need on 4th and 1. And it's the whole reason I call it the Gridiron Warrior, because there's so many of those weight room warriors out there that are really great in that room, and it doesn't show up on the field. I'll take a Gridiron Warrior, right, kid who can move and kid who can play over a weight room warrior any day of the week.
And we had some of those guys. I had, Alex Hardin-Simmons, who was one of our best O-linemen, and he was weak as puppy piss. He couldn't probably bench 175, but my goodness, he played basketball. He was a pitcher. He played multiple sports, and he was a dog. And then I had a linebacker bench 400 and could shed a block to save his life. So it's, for me, that's, I guess, where I get the interesting viewpoint of a football coach or a head sport coach and a strength and conditioning coach. Sometimes there's tension. There wasn't, because I did both of them. So I did overvalue strength, and I could see the kid that bench 400 how poor he was, and I could see 175 how good. And then I understood, and, or it'd be a question, well, what if, Joe Bob doesn't show up for any summer workouts? I said, well, do you want to play without Joe Bob? We'll kick off game 1. No, coach, he's our best player. Yeah, no shit. So if he doesn't show up to a single workout and we're coaching and playing football, we're not a weightlifting team, we'll be okay. Joe Bob will start for us. And the kid that had 100% attendance, which would have been me or my sons, like, he's not a good football player. He went out 35 pounds on his bench. Man, we call power right. He's not the cat I want pulling, and he ain't going to get it done. So I guess that was a neat or a blessing for me, was to be able to be in charge of both of them, which is rare. But at the end of the day, my job was to win a football match, or at least be as competitive as possible. It wasn't to post numbers of how much we improved in the weight room. Nobody gave a crap when the horn blew at the end of Friday night. I just wanted us to win and produce on the field. So I might have got on a rant there, but that's like, I love strength and conditioning. And I think if you could get an athlete more powerful, yes, you have to get them stronger. I think they'd be better on the line of scrimmage. I think that's kind of a missing ingredient in my opinion.
Yeah, you need it all. I think that's, at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. You need to be stronger. You need to be more, you need to just put all of that together. And I think we're finally starting to see that. We're starting to see coaches pick up the missing pieces that they weren't doing, and now they're putting it all together in a full package. Let me ask you this, because, I see it at my level. We'll have skill players that can transition up and play right away, as a freshman or a redshirt freshman. But offensive line is not a position where you typically will see some young guys play right away. And part of that might be, again, you move up a level. It's probably a size issue. It might be a little bit of a strength issue. But there's something about being in the trenches that it takes maturity, it takes a little bit of time, and your best offensive defensive linemen are a little bit older. Now, I have my own theories, and I'm sure you do too. I'm curious what to hear. Why do you think that is, and how can we help high school linemen transition to college so that they're a little bit more ready and hopefully they can get on the field a little bit sooner? Maybe this is the high school coach out there, what can they do to get their kids ready for that next level if they
Yeah,
have maybe a recruitable lineman?
yeah, that's a great point, a great conversation piece. I think there's a lot of ingredients. One would be the communication that takes place within the lineman at college level is at a higher level than high school. The terminology, having to memorize these things, I think the amount of fronts, disguises, blitzes you see at college level, just a high school brain can't comprehend that early on. I think,
Or they just haven't seen it.
yeah,
You know, they've been in a wing T system and they haven't been exposed to anything outside of that.
I don't know. Outside the zone is way right in fuck sleep. Well, that's kind of insane. That's an adjustment too. I think too, like high school, you're gonna see, how many linebackers are you gonna see that can really, really move, really break down film in high school. Maybe three that you at the end of the game, like, dude, I couldn't get my hands on him. And that guy knew to play. Well, you get to college level, that's every linebacker. It doesn't matter. Same thing with D linemen is you gotta have a lot of plotters, just gap stuffers at the high school level. And then you'll see two or three that are twitchy, that are really good. Well, now you're realizing, man, I made it in high school because I was big and they put me there. I was relatively strong, but this is a whole new level of commitment. I think film watching, most high school kids watch film just to watch themselves. They watch it like they're just watching highlights of themselves, and they're not watching it. Does this defense have tips? They show their hand. Did you get that in film? How are you working? What's the whole concept? Where's the running back trying to fit in? Where's the quarterback setting up the pocket? You would like, and I say that there's a lot of, I think some of the best coaches in the world are high school coaches because they can't recruit. They're given what they're given. I think the parents are out of control. They're prepping for 3 classes, so they're doing their best, but it's just hard. I think, and you need some weight room seasoning as well. When I say weight room, for us, we do a lot of plyometrics. In that first offseason, those freshmen is, they're miserable because they've never done those things. It's totally new to them. So we don't have, I'm trying to think if we've had freshman linemen play meaningful snaps on the like D line's different. We've had some really, really good freshman D linemen, edge guys primarily.
Yep.
Third down specialists. That's, I think it's a little different to play inside. We don't have any freshmen that do that, but what's your theory? I'm curious.
So my big things are, one, there's so much more teamwork that gets involved. So you need chemistry, and chemistry takes time to come together. Now, transfer portal's kind of proven me wrong a little bit because we've been able to. Now, we don't wholesale get a new offensive line, but we've been able to go get one guy. Say, hey, we got to go get a new tackle. We got to go get maybe a nice guard piece. And we can go plug one guy in. And as long as, we feel them out in the portal and we think they have good chemistry. Chemistry is a big piece of offensive line play, so I think that's one. And two, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's film, and it's learning how to watch film correctly because the next level is so much faster than anything you've seen before. Even the best team you go against in the county, now every team in college has the best kid from that team at every position. So the D-liner, and as much as we don't enjoy 7-on-7, I think a lot of people think 7-on-7 is overrated. For skill players, it's an opportunity to go one-on-one against really good competition. And you see a lot, I see it on social media, a lot of recruitable wide receivers going against recruitable defensive backs during 7-on-7. So they're getting their opportunities to play at full speed. But inside the trenches, you don't get opportunities to practice at full speed. Even at practice, you don't get, true opportunities. You don't get to see those things. You can't work a combo into, hey, you got to peel off and get this linebacker. You don't get the true speed of that until you get under the lights. So that's a big piece for offensive line is learn how to watch film correctly, I love the piece of don't just watch yourself, watch the entire thing of what's going on. And then two, it's more if you want to be a great lineman, is position work during the summer that's up to speed, not just one-on-one pass rush, because at the end of the day, like that's what. Hopefully, you're not even getting to third down and worrying about that. Hopefully, you're doing the job the right way and you're running that thing the whole time.
Yeah.
So, I think there's a lot to it there, but the film piece is so, and it's such an untapped market. I think kids have no idea where to even start. I'm seeing a lot of people on social media these days that break down film now, and I think that's great for the kids to follow. That stuff is better than watching, whatever the next lifting video is and
Yeah.
trying to get your squat, better.
I know, and I know watching, I watch a lot of whatever high school highlights, especially with my son. They were playing and stuff, and I watched their opponent. And I know some of them really don't have a clue because their first clip is garbage. They're getting a pancake, but it's 2 yards in the
Yeah.
bag still. And
Or they're
or
torquing somebody back into their
Yeah,
quarterback,
I'm
and
just
they're putting
like,
that's not, you
I'm like,
should be proud of
clearly
that one.
they don't understand a lot of things when their highlight show is poorly put together, and I think it is hard. The lower the classification, well, I think 6A's, in Texas, it's like a college kind of system, even 5A's, but the smaller you get, where the kid plays both ways, that's even harder. The coach is trying to make it simple so they can get a lot of reps, and I think that is a key in high school, making it simple. So then you get to college and like, screw simple. Our 1 day install was bigger than your entire playbook. Now let's go. And they're like, oh my God, I'm away from home and this is weird. And there's no girls on campus here.
And then as soon as camp ends, they get sent down to scout team, and they're not even learning their own offense anymore. They every week they got to go learn the other team's offense. And even then, they're not learning it. They're looking at the cards.
And
The card tells me where to go, and I go where they tell me to go. So the developmental piece is not there. And if they're not, I tell our young guys all the time, like, take advantage of your indie work and take advantage of post practice. Those are your opportunities to work on your craft. And then the rest of the time in the middle is you helping the team get better, whatever that may be. And it's hard for some young guys sometimes, especially when they were the dude, right? They were the big body that was knocking everybody over and crushing people, and then come to this level, and it's like, it's not the same, man. So you gotta, it's hard. That adjustment's hard. People find their role and take a step back almost.
And sometimes the worst thing you do is go home and be like, hey, aren't y'all playing on Saturday? I'm on the Devo squad. What? Oh man, you're all district, and I mean, you just mauled people. Or like, it's almost better not to go back home and have to have those conversations, explain it. You're like, I'm going to stay in Emily next time. Maybe not go back to the homecoming game.
Let me ask you this: with the Devo guys and some of those young guys, I'm sure you've had plenty of kids come in, and it happens to be the big guys. I squatted 600 at high school. I was this at the powerlifting meet, and you watch them first time they lift, and you go, that looks terrible. Or that I don't want to work with that guy. And there's some yes sir, no sir kids that can take that and understand, hey, I got to take 2 steps back to take 3 steps forward. But there's some kids that have a little bit of pride and a little bit of ego, and you tell them, hey, we got to lower the weight, we got to change how you do things here. How do you deal with those kids? They want to do it. They want to lift the heavy weights because in high school that's what they were doing. How do you get them to take a step back without crushing their ego?
You kind of keep in a racehorse in the stable and they want to run, but I guess I beat it to the punch early the first kind of meeting. I'm like, and I'm not saying this is the way to do it, but hey, how many of y'all were regional powerlifting champs, state champs? I don't give a shit. We're not the powerlifting league. You're gonna learn how to do it our way, and nobody cares. Just that's the bottom line. So then we'll go command weights with our Devos early on, and it'll be, hey, 2x2, 2-inch squat, 2 steps out, eyes straight ahead, elbows down and in, and I blow a whistle, down and up. So I don't really give them the option. They should have done their summer workouts. I'm treating them like they've never seen. They landed in it from a UFO, and this is a barbell, this is a rag. And about after 4 sessions, I'll be like, all right, we're not on command. 275 is the cap. And I just keep raising the cap. So eventually, we're in week 7 now. we're not doing much on command with Devo, but I do set more caps, and we use DBT. So I give them guidelines like, hey, if it's, if it's below whatever APRE, DBT, if it's below 0.5, if it's this range, take 10 off. If it's this range, take 20 off. If it's this range, you suck, and you clearly missed the assignment. And the flip side, hey, if it's this speed, I'd wait. So I think the VBT helps. There's good and there's bad with it. I'm a huge fan of it. I think it drives intent, it drives competition. It's like having 20 coaches there. You're not going to see, we'll have 98 demo guys in there at one time. With me, I have a great assistant, Jackson Money, and coaches tight ends too, B3 ball. So, there's sometimes he's not in there because he's in the tight end meeting. And then I have some interns in the GA, but I'll go back and I'll look at the data, and then I'll give them a target weight for the next session, which takes a lot of time. And I'm training one of my interns to do it with the Devo squad, and I'll do the travel squad. But based on the rep scheme and the speeds, I'll go back on output, and I'll give them a target weight for the next one.
All right. Next question I wanted to get into was talking about taking care of the big guys. It's just natural, right? They carry a lot more mass, a lot more weight. It puts a lot more stress on the joints. So, and they're doing a very physically demanding job. Like, obviously running is physically demanding for skill guys, but pushing and pulling, contact prep type activities, blocking in general is a different type of stress and strain. So, what are some things that you've done, whether it's mobility drills, we talked about off air, we talked about body tempering, maybe it's certain stretching, and I steal some Donnie Thompson powerlifting stuff. I'm sure you probably do too. But what are you doing with big guys in terms of getting them feeling good and feeling ready to go after either a tough practice or a heavy lift, getting them back to 100%?
And we were fortunate, I think it's a big part of it is the coach who structures the practice plan and the intensity. I think the athletic trainer, I think sheer luck, but I'm 99% sure we had all 5 old linemen start every game last year, which is unusual. And I think one piece is whatever dynamic prep. I think it's more than a warm up. I think it deserves a better name than that. I am an RPR guy. I dabble, whatever functional range conditioning. We do the cars portion. So I have the RPR and the cars built in. So if it's a weight room only session, it'd be like upside down Y RPR, front to back jump squats, and then a neck car. Back in the skull RPR, 7 side jumps, lunge, and then a thoracic spine car. So it's a 7-minute dynamic prep, which if I had to say, Coach, you can only have one piece of the workout, I'd probably do that.
When you're doing your cars, let's say you're doing a neck car, are you cadencing? Are you cadencing that out? You giving them
kind of like command weights? Like we start, and then I take the trainer wheels off. And granted, if you came into our weight room, 50% look like, man, hey, chin to the collarbone, ear far back, and some just look like the Exorcist.
No doubt.
But
RPR is the same way. Some are digging into it, and some are just there having a good time.
Yeah, and you go out to practice, and 50% look like slap big Sammy, and 50% are going to play 90%. It's a Pareto principle, whatever, 80-20. So I don't lose sleep. Now, someone could come in and be like, "Now, you don't pay attention to details, and they're not doing curves." I'm like, I got 7 minutes. If they want to fart around, that's, they're going to have injuries. Okay. But the guys we need take it. The older they get, the more serious they take it.
No doubt.
I mean, that's like our seniors, they're locked in, and they're like, oh, jawbone croquet, and they're doing it. So that's one piece of the puzzle. 2 is we call it body shop. So and the head coach loves it on game day, but we build it all year. Also, we have like QR codes. Hey, you're a hip guy, you're a Dr. Braun guy, and they're 7 of them on their mirror in the weight room. They can scan it on camera. I love Canva. I know you're a Canva fan. They are just a public view link. They can see it. But then I build it into, like today, we have an opportunity. We don't have an opponent this week. So our last two circuits, which are usually weight-related movements, it was bench adductor squats. It was Donnie Thompson's banded shoulder protocol. I'm also a big body tempering guy. The key to that, you're going to do it, teach the players how to do it themselves. Otherwise, man, my best workout of the week is Saturdays. I'll go an hour straight. I think we did 58 guys the other day, me and my assistant and intern. And then you need it. My hammies are on fire.
That's the whole reason I'm getting some rollers is because I do the poor man version where I take a barbell and I put the sleeve on their hamstring and I'm working it for them. And
No.
you know what? All it takes is one. You start with one. And give a mouse a cookie. All right, yeah, you know what? I got you, man. I got you. Come on in. We'll take care of you. And then somebody sees them doing it and they say, hey, can I get that next? Can I get that next? Next thing you know, you got a freaking line out the door. So I got to get the actual temper. And I'm going to teach them how to do it for each other. I'll supervise, but I'm with you, man. 110 pounds. You're rolling that thing over and over. It's a workout.
Well, based on the number of snaps you get will dictate how much time you get on that table with me. So it's sometimes, hey, that's man up. Oh, here's the starter. You know, I'm going to spend a little more time with him. I steal a lot from Donnie Thompson. We do a lot of band distracted stuff. Dr. Kelly Starrett, I hope I'm saying that right, Supple Leopard. And then I'm reading this new book, Rebuilding Milo, Dr. Aaron. Very similar. In fact, Kelly wrote the full, the preamble or whatever for it. So like every coach, I'm a good thief. There's nothing new. I just steal from people smarter than me. And I do think in that vein, contact prep, I was a doubter. My head coach was like, hey, look into it. So what I do, I bought your contact prep, and I think that's a huge piece of what we do. We do it more in the summer, and not football related. We do it with our basketball team now too. And there was a basketball player, big old 6'6", 240-pound guy. There's an odd number, and I had to partner up with him. I had done my RPR. I had done my contact prep. Man, I forgot just calves, Achilles. Like I thought I ruptured my Achilles tendon. And I was the one just providing resistance. It was a lateral lead in. So I love it for not just football, but I do think that helps our guys minimize, you can't prevent, but minimize injuries. And we use a lot with not just the bigs, because it's hard we don't have a staff or fire where, hey, your bigs, your mid, your skill. It's more of a shotgun approach. We use a lot of Swiss bars. We don't have dumbbells. So we use a lot of landmines. We use a lot of Swiss bars, like the neutral grip helps our shoulders. We have the safety bars now, which I think, squatting, especially the O-line. If I could solve shoulder and labrum tears, I'd be a millionaire. But I think the safety bars help a ton. We do a lot of isometrics, which is, I know enough probably to be dangerous. And I'm excited to think, on the Intern Chit Chat podcast, Matt Van Dyke is our next guest, and he was ground floor with Cal Dietz on triphasic. So clearly they studied eccentric isometrics. He wrote a book on it, isometric athletic performance. He's with the Texans. So we do it, and I do feel it helps tendon ligament, resiliency. I just wish I knew better how to, in everybody's periodization, whether you're linear or non-linear, I wish I knew how to periodize the isometrics, but we do those on Sundays because I think recovery is a lot easier on isometrics, and we'll get into specific alignment positions. So I guess the downside is joint angle, but we'll get a med ball, we'll jam it up against the rack, and we'll say, hey, 75% extension, 6 seconds, hey, 50%. Hey, oh no, this isn't good. He's into my body. So the downside of isometrics is no movement. Well, you better train multiple angles if you're going to use that. And we did more of that probably than ever this past year, I would say.
All right, Coach, let's land the plane here. Let's fly things home. Couple questions to finish with for high school coaches, right, that are out there. They're doing everything. They're the football guy. They're the strength coach. They're organizing the bus for the away trips. What's one piece of maybe weight room equipment or a tool or something that you think they should get that's not a gimmick that could really benefit either offense and defensive linemen?
I'll give you 3. A landmine, because it's the lowest hanging fruit. It's cheap.
You
You could jam it up in between
a
the
tennis ball.
Then I would say a medicine
Mhm.
ball, because I'm surprised how many we didn't have any when I got there. Because most of your rep is decelerating. Now you can accelerate through it. There's no eccentric. You can do them a bunch. And I'd say a Swiss bar. Or some people call them a football bar. But I think so you could have. I don't like a football bar. I like one where it's external rotation. It's like the V. We finally learned you got to flip it the right way. It's like, I don't call it a punch. That's internal rotation. A strike is external rotation to connect your elbow to your hip. So again, I'm not saying we're reinventing the barbell, but back in the day, people just wanted faster horses because they didn't know a freaking car was even in existence. You just wanted a faster horse. If all you know is a barbell, you just want a barbell. But if you do a Swiss bar, and you can do it for so many different things, you're like, why don't we do this more often? Because you can rip a kid's ass if he's blocking like this. So why don't we train our presses more with a Swiss bar? And it's pretty cheap. I mean, it's all those things are cheap. I've mastered being really cheap with the budgets I have. Those are all really cheap things. Those three kind of must
I love
have.
all those. The only thing I would add is the Viking press jammers that you can put on the landmine as well. So once you get landmines, the next step is to get that Viking press. We've started adding a ton of that in because I saw you doing it. And I said, all right, that's enough's enough. I got to go get these. And
I had a welder. He built all our racks in my old school, and I literally had to measure the width of shoulder pads from tip to tip, and I said, make that. And it's an easier footprint than storing a Viking press, soup bone. Those are all great, but they just take up so much room. And I literally wanted to be dead on specific of, when you strike, you don't want to shoot your hands too wide. This is exactly where you want it. And I love them. And my wife is in Dallas. She's picking up 8 more of them from the welder to drop them off on my mom's porch.
Awesome. Coach, where can people find more of your stuff if they want to learn more, if they want to get some big body power in their life? Where can they get all that?
Yeah, and that's a labor of
love that
love.
resource, by the way, too. I'm not even just trying to pump you up, Coach. Like, I took so much of that, and you can see it in my own videos of the stuff that I stole directly from you. I know you stole some stuff from me, but I've taken plenty from that big body power course. So,
and it's probably a deep dive. Like, I'm not a good salesman, and I don't have a lot of hobbies. That was my hobby. And again, I was like, man, if my mom buys it, I sold one. I don't really care. I got to do it with my kids. They were the main characters in it. And I added a bunch of stuff to it, like cutting room floor clips. So you can get big body power. It's not a book. It's not a video. It's
the labor of love.
I don't know what to call it. Yeah, but if you use the promise, you'd have more powerful linemen. And again, I'm sorry if I'm running along, but the end goal, my thought was, and you were the one who motivated me, contact prep, scores and stops. And using camera was like, year one, I was going to do power because I thought that was the number one thing linemen were missing. Year two, I was going to do agility. And I still, Christmas, the only time I would break. I was going to do strength like last. Agility being number two to me. And then like health, mobility, those kind of things. So hopefully I'll do strength again. I post a lot just again because I don't have hobbies and it's fun for me, whether people like it or not. Coach J Burk on X, formerly known as Twitter, and then I think it's Coach J Burk 5272.
Type his name in, you'll find it.
Coach J Burk.
Type his name in, you'll find it either way.
It was fascinating because some of the stuff, because I don't know, my son's really Mullet Murphy. He does a lot of this and he's great, better than me. But I'll post something and I think, man, this is the best shit I've ever posted. If someone did this, kneeling, medicine ball, broad jump, they'd fire off the ball better. Or he gets like 3 likes, and then I'll post something that's the dumbest stuff. I'm like, let's just see. And it blows up. Or, what am I missing, man? I'm not kidding. But I throw it out there. I'll post.
No, you put great stuff out there. Keep doing it, Coach, because I'm telling you, people are watching, people are paying attention. So,
And man, I'm telling you, contact prep, we do it all. And this summer, we texted a few times. That was we dabbled in open-ended agility, which is not changing direction agility. You have to react to a component. I really think, and I hope that helped our linemen. There's no more frustrating feeling in the world than to run a screen and there's only one swinging dick out there. You got to block, and if you do, it's a touchdown. And everybody loses their mind. What if he did some infinity hoops? What if he did curve linear running? What if he expanded his peripheral vision? And then he had these agility things. Now I know they don't do it with their helmet, but I think, and I hope I've seen some of that where they're able to, the OODA you won't have that one dude that nobody got on screen block.
Exactly, because when the lights come on, it's not like scout team where he just stands there, right? He's actually going to try and not get crushed. So you got to be able to be open in the open space.
And that was huge, man. That changed our summer, really the last 2 summers, the addition of contact pro and then open-ended agility scores and stops. And we tried some that got too physical. The Catalina wine mixer shit got crazy.
We'll save that one for another podcast. We'll save that. We can't let that one out.
I was like, yeah, man, because it was the last week and they were getting wound up. I'm like, no more of that, man.
Oh man. If anyone listening wants to know about the Catalina wine mixer, you got to ask Coach directly about that one. We can't talk about that one on air. We'll probably get fired. So, oh man, Coach, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for all you do. Appreciate you and enjoyed it.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you guys on the next one.